Just a second. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at Tech Tuesday. This week, we have Dr. Gitay Kryger from our office. He's in charge of FoodTech, and he's going to talk to us about FoodTech. So, Gitay, please take it away.
Yep. Thank you. I just set my alarm for 15 minutes, and I hope not to pass those 15 minutes. We are gathered to talk about the special issues that concern food tech and food products in patents. And these are the boilerplates of our Tech Tuesdays meetings. So we are here to share ideas, share knowledge, anything we have to contribute to our fellow colleagues, and also maybe to our customers, those that are more interested in our side of the trade. You're all familiar with those notes. So we need to say anything about that? No, let's dive into the topic. So food tech, why is it so special than any other composition or process or method inventions that we are encountering every day? I think that traditionally, companies in the food industries were not accustomed to filing claims for their products, but they invested a lot in other forms. Most of it is branding, logos, trademarks, and they kept their recipes and other tricks secret. All know the big legend of Coca-Cola, and they made fortunes from keeping them their recipes secret and their logos exposed. But now we have more technology going into everything, not only to our cars, but also to our food. And we are looking for innovation, innovating in food. And that opens again the market to written IP documents, patents. So I'm not going to read through the slides. You will all have this presentation available for you later, but the topics are very broad. But one thing we have to keep in mind, if you just made a new food product and the innovation is in the recipe, you'll be surprised, but your first rejection will be on industrial applicability, because the whole point is to eat. And that's a personal thing, and it doesn't contribute to anything else but yourself. But more, in other terms, even if you make a claim that it has an industrial applicability, variations in ingredients and cooking conditions will not hold patentability. This special grandma's recipe for the ketchup is most likely to end up as a trade secret rather than in a patent. But new foods, oh, that's a big deal. There are not so many opportunities to write on new foods, except for the last several years where we started inventing cells that will taste like meat, and then cell cultures that will also give us the texture, and that is new food. Otherwise, we have to look at a reason why we are looking for patent protection. And in most cases, it will be because we think the innovation that we put into the food can be reverse engineered or copied, and we need to have some form of protection over our invention. So again, I'm looking through this list of examples. Sometimes it'll be an improvement on the taste, and you have to start with a problem with the taste. The taste is too bitter or lingers too long or something like that, and you fix that. You have to prove your claim through sensory test And that's another tricky issue that is special for food tech, and you don't find it in other fields like in pharma. If we change something in the process, and now we can make Bamba much faster, but the Bamba looks the same, what's the point in writing a patent for this? It will most likely serve our competition, unless the Bamba looks different, unless there is some signature in the product that can be linked to the process, but is not. But then I will not file for protection on the process, but on the unique product, and I will make an effort not to use process terms in the composition claim, so I will not be forced into a product by process. But in some cases, if the product now is crunchier, I will find the measures and the repetitive experiments that give me this unique difference, and I will claim that property. How I did it, it's going to be hidden, but somewhere in the application, I will have to be able to show that I have possession of the invention and I can produce it, but I'm not going to claim the process. And then the process description can be more general. I am submitting to the public the basic parameters of how to improve the product, but I do not claim the process, so I don't have to disclose it in the most detailed way. And again, as I mentioned before, sensory factors play a very important role in food tech IP and food tech patents. Claiming that I improved the taste is going to be very hard, not to mention functional and too vague and unclear. It's a taste. It's a question of taste, and you cannot argue about taste. But you can bring evidence that you now have a crunchier or a smoother or a less bitter product if you employ the standards of organoleptic property assays and assessments. And you can actually follow an ISO standard that is accepted across the industry and follow those guidelines to give your results a stronger background. There are many ways of doing that. I guess for the patent purposes, you do not have to go to the most expert company in sensory tests. You can do it in-house. You can train your own group, but you do have to report in an orderly manner how you assessed the improvement. And organoleptic properties are very important tools. But if you can find the molecular signature in your product, now you are in the court of the big guys. If you can link crunchiness to a certain level of caramel in your crust at a certain depth that stays crunchy for a number of days, all these are measurable parameters, and crunchiness can be tested on a force analyzer to show when you hear the first crack or where you change the stress with the measurement of the force analyzer is stress against forgot it. Anyway, but you can show a point of an inflection point under certain pressure, and now you have a measurable parameter that you can put into your claim. So if you look for molecular signatures, they can be found in compounds, they can be found in mechanical properties. And again, I call it molecular because you are studying the the molecular properties of the product. Let me just silence this. Sorry. And we should always look for molecular signatures if we can, and most likely we can. Again, if you use fermentation in one of your process steps, and you are using a specific strain, yes, you can add a genetic signature of this of your lactobacillus into the claim, but that's going a little too far, unless this is a crucial selection of between other microorganisms. So if your microorganism is responsible for your excellent taste, you better have its signature in the claim. Food is not like pharmaceuticals, but still goes under strict regulations, and it affects our life as patent attorneys when we have to either disclose all the ingredients or not disclose all the ingredients, because in the patent you can do you have to disclose a few things. Some things you can keep out, but on the label of the product, you will be obeying different rules. So it's important to look at your product and identify which regulation it will go under. And if it's a marketed product, what are the regulations requirements for disclosure? Because it has to match the level of disclosure that you put in your patent. What we can say about regulation in terms of drafting a patent, sometimes our food is known, but we have a second use for it, and we decided or we find that our chicken broth is good. It reduces our blood pressure, but we cannot state that on the product. So if we claim our product as a nutraceutical, which is not a legal term, by the way, nutraceuticals, and we claim it for a second use for treatment of blood pressure, we will be at odds with the regulations of labeling of food products, which are not allowed. Most countries will not allow to put a health claim on a food product. In most cases, this will be a better way of going through that is to claim with the language that states for lowering the risk of blood pressure, and avoid words like treatment. So it can be a second use of a known product, food product, for reducing the risk of. And that's an acceptable language also in Israel and in Europe. And I guess in terms of time, I still have a few more minutes. So of course, in all those cases where you do not have to disclose ingredients or process steps, your best bet is trade secrets. You have to consider a few things. One of them, will you be forced to disclose? If you are forced to disclose, you better have a patent on it. But if you're not forced to disclose, keep it a secret. If there's no way to reverse engineer your invention, again, no reason to disclose. But that's a tricky question. Today, you cannot reverse engineer a product, but tomorrow there will be a technology that will allow this reverse engineering, and you cannot do anything about that. But keeping a trade secret really fully drafted is very easy to turn into a patent if you did not disclose your invention. And selling your invention in a supermarket is in most cases a disclosure. So again, this thing should be weighted and kept in mind. Not everything is good for a patent, and sometimes you'll be along the years, you'll be sorry you did not file a patent, but in most cases, process claims will not do you any good, but will do your opposition or your competition an easier life. The last thing I would like to mention is that food is, again, the first thing that you think about is how it looks like. Second is how it smells, and last, we taste it. But the first thing we do is we look at it. And nature is full of those trademarks. For example, the yellow and the orange color of fruits is a trademark for ripeness, and we all are attuned to those cues. So when my time is up. So when we think about protecting a food product, probably the first thing we want to do is to think about everything to do with visuality of your food. And here we can have another 10 or 1 hour talk about these things, but I will leave that for your questions. So that's again a boilerplate slide telling us how we will continue after my talk. Any question for any one of us